The parent of the photo messaging app Snapchat said sales rose 39% from the previous year to $320 million for 3 months ending March 31st. Snap also reporting 190 million people use the app daily, compared with 186 million in the fourth quarter. Bloomberg Tech's Gerrit Vynck joins us now from New York. So Gerrit, break it down for us.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I guess in some ways Snap is back, but I just want to point out right off the bat that, you know, the stock was closed about $12. It's up 10% now, so it'll be slightly higher than that. That's still a long way off from the $17 IPO price that this company went out with in 2017. It shot up right after the IPO, and since then it's been a really rough ride for this company as Facebook has stolen some of its key features, or, you know, borrowed and used very successfully, maybe rather. And now, you know, the company is really starting to sort of put out new features there, and like you said, the Android app seems to be moving the needle a bit here on user growth.
User growth did beat. I mean, analysts were expecting they would add maybe 600,000 users. Instead, they added more like 4 million users. Is that something that analysts believe Snap can sustain?
I mean, I'm not sure, you know, exactly where that's going to go, but I do think it's a very positive sign when it comes to the Android rollout, right? Because Snap is a very kind of big app. It's a feature-heavy app. It has a lot of video, a lot of streaming, a lot of, you know, things that take a lot of internet usage, and it's really been an app that's been best used on an iPhone, on sort of a more expensive phone. And now that they've redesigned their app from scratch for Android, which took a lot of work, took a lot of time, they've been talking about this for a long time now. If they can actually pull in, you know, that whole universe of people, 85% of the world uses Android instead of Apple's iOS, and so that's a lot more people, and I think them kind of attributing this user growth to the Android boost does show, you know, some positive signs for things to come.
You've obviously covered technology for a very long time. Malik of True Ventures joining us here in the studio. Do you think a real revival of Snap is possible?
Indeed it is. I think we are at that time in the social media environment where people are looking for a more private and a more controlled environment like Snap. I think there is a proper backlash to the more open social platforms like Twitter and Facebook. So there is a chance for Snapchat to bring in slightly older demographic back into the fold. They have lost a lot of that attention, mostly because of people prefer to go to Instagram and, you know, Facebook and Twitter.
And the product for some is hard to understand and difficult to use.
Well, I think it's hard to understand for older people. For younger people, it's not, because they're very native on the platform. And, you know, it's like my nieces, they use it all the time and they have no problems with it. I mean, it took me a while to figure it out, but I did.
I won't tell you which side of the spectrum I fall on, but Gerrit, just a couple weeks ago, analysts from eMarketer said that Snap would lose users in the United States, that Instagram would be picking up those new users. Snap pushed back against that report really hard, said they were misinformed. But how do we square those two things?
Well, I mean, Snap was sitting on the numbers that they've now put out, and it turns out that they were right. I mean, it's always a tough game with this, right? And when you're talking about, you know, the internet, social media, and some of these things flying back and forth, and when we've been talking about concerns about Facebook, Twitter for a couple years now, but Instagram continues to grow, even though it is part of Facebook. And even Facebook had a great quarter last quarter, and, you know, the expectations for its results tomorrow are quite positive. So I think it's a tough business to sort of look at what's going on in society and say, okay, that means X, Y, and Z for these companies' bottom lines.
Now, as we've discussed, Facebook and Instagram have copied many of Snap's features to great success. You know, stories are now a huge thing on both of these services. Do you think that that kind of competition is something that Snap can continue to defeat?
Well, I think you have to think about it from a revenue standpoint. Snap invented the whole vertical advertising idea. Facebook and Instagram ran with it, made it pretty much an industry standard. Now that benefits Snap in a way that it can actually take a lot of advertising which has been created for those two platforms onto its platform. I think there is a lot of things which can go right for Snapchat, except Snap has to get over itself. I think the biggest enemy of Snap has been Snap itself, not...
What do you mean?
I mean, you know, they've been slow to move on things. They have been they have been dismissive of like emerging markets for growth opportunities. Android coming out in 2019 with an Android app, that is just a, that's a B minus in my books. It's like 90% of the world is on Android. Why are you not? Like that tells you that management had wrong priorities. They're too cool for school. And if they don't get that thing figured out, they will continue to be, and it'll be like they'll be like a great baseball player with a lot of potential, just not Mike Trout.